So we're in the series on Romans 12, continuing on the 24/7 series. Now, 24/7 is basically how we should be living our lives 24/7. So Jonathan opened the series with Love Without Limits, and Matt preached last week about passion, and I've been reflecting all week, am I at boiling point? And I think nearly every time I thought to reflect, the answer was, no, I'm not actually. So really, really challenging preach. Well done last week, Matt. Today, as I say, I'm talking about honour. And I've found it really challenging again this week, because when I've been preparing for this, it's probably a battle between pride, humility, honour, because you're sort of thinking, I think I'm doing reasonably okay at this. And then you start preparing and you start thinking, actually, I'm not. So please, open your hearts. I might be a little bit challenging, but the whole point is are we living like Jesus? Are we honouring everybody around us and the Lord? So, starting off with Romans 12, 1 and 2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve that God's will is his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So today I'll be preaching from Romans 12:10, which is up behind me. But I just want to set the scene and just set the context by reading a little bit either side. Some of the Bibles will paraphrase this section as love in action. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honour one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervour, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Paul commands us to be devoted to one another in love. Honour one another above yourselves. Honouring others, though, goes against our natural instinct, which is to honour and value ourselves. It's only by having the Holy Spirit with us, having the humility and the power of the Holy Spirit, that we can esteem and honour our fellows more than ourselves. And I actually love the Message version. I know some people turn their nose up at the Message version, but I'm a simple person, and I actually find it really, really helpful. It says, be good friends who love deeply, practice playing second fiddle. And the picture behind me is, but I don't like playing second fiddle. Why should I have to play second fiddle? And that's the whole point. It's not about what I want. It's about what I need to do for others. So, what is honour? I looked up in the dictionary, and there's two key things it is. High respect, so great esteem, and the quality of knowing and doing what is morally right. This morning, I think I'm going to focus more on the high respect and great esteem, because otherwise I've had trouble trying to cram all this in any case, and if I went for both, it would be just far too wide. So, high respect and great esteem. I was at a corporate function this week with Sir Richard Gosney, who, for those who don't know, is the Lieutenant Governor of the Isle of Man. And I was sort of comparing and helping that one. Worldly standards, he's certainly worthy of honour. He's a Queen's representative on the Isle of Man, and he has a very distinguished career. During his time as a Queen's representative, he's been to places like Swaziland, Indonesia, Nigeria, Republic of Benin, which I didn't even know where that was, and Republic of Equatorial Guinea and Bermuda. I believe he is actually a man worthy of honour. And when you start, you have to say, Your Excellency, and if his wife's there, then Lady Gosney. If the Chief Minister's there, Chief Minister, then Minister. And actually, it'd be like me coming up and starting this morning saying, apostles, elders, prophets, deacons, ministry leaders, life group leaders, saints. But do we always have to give people that position of honour? To me, the titles, they are worthy of honour, but we don't actually have to call them by their title to be worthy of honour. But it does get me thinking, how do we honour others in the world? And sometimes we mistake fame for honour. If you put honour into your Google search, I actually came up with the first winner of Big Brother. No, actually, to be fair, Craig Phillips has done an awful lot going on for charity. He's raised over £500,000 for charities. So actually, he's done an awful lot of good. But when we start mistaking the winner of Big Brother or the winner of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here or those other things, we've got it desperately wrong. Yeah. They're not in themselves worthy of honour. Honour as taught in the Scriptures is far different from the type of honour sought after by the world. Honour and awards are heaped upon those with wealth, political clout, worldly power and celebrity status. Don't get me wrong, some of these will be worthy of honour, but certainly not all of them are. And would you do well to remember James 4:6? Those who thrive on this world's fleeting honour and stature are unmindful that God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I think the key word for me in there is thrive. If you're living for that honour and for that glory, there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong to be given honour, and it's great to be given honour. But if actually you're living for it, and that's what keeps you going, and that's, you seek it, and you're thriving on it, then actually you're not living according to God's will. So first of all, who should we honour? Well, honour your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise. And stand up in the presence of the aged. Show respect for the elderly and revere your God. So 2 quick points here. I'm never, ever, ever going to miss the opportunity to put Ephesians 6:2 up when Sam and Elliot are here. Yeah. Apologies for that. Now, they may actually turn around and say, actually, Dad, Leviticus 19:32 is speaking more to you, where it's about the aged. So perhaps they'll get back at me this afternoon. But it's just really pointing out that even in our homes, with our families, and our wider families, we should be respecting each other. Yeah. There's many, many more I could choose, but I've just chosen those 2. We should honour God. 1 Tim 1:17. Now to the King eternal, immortal, invisible, the only God, be honour and glory forever and ever. Amen. Such a simple verse, but so powerful. I love the story of Eric Liddell, Chariots of Fire. I must have watched that film 20, 30 times. For those who don't know, it's about his life and primarily focused on the 1924 Olympics in Paris. Paris was going through a heat wave. It was one of the hottest summers ever in Paris. But for Eric Liddell, that was the least of his concerns. His best event by far was 100 metres. It had been scheduled for a Sunday. He withdrew because he didn't want to run on the Lord's Day. Now, I'm not saying that doing something on the Lord's Day is wrong, but for his conscience, God had spoken to him and said, don't run on a Sunday. So he sets his sights on the 400 metres instead. Now, for those of you who are athletes like me, you're not supposed to laugh quite that loudly. Those of you who are athletes like me can think back and say, how many times has somebody running the 100 metres gone on to win the 400 metres? It's fundamentally a different event. Yeah. So just the context there. He sets his sights on the 400 metres, and in the dressing room before the event, his masseur handed him a folded paper. It contained the quotation from 1 Samuel 2:30. Those who honour me, I will honour. Now, he's famed for going on and winning the gold medal. What's actually less well known, he's actually set a new world record in doing that as well. So not only did he go on and win the gold medal against there, but he ran faster in that event than anyone had ever run before in that event. God honours those who honour him and put their trust in him. He put his trust in him, saying, whether I do this or not, Lord, I am honouring you. Honouring ourselves is a thankless task, and hoping to be honoured by others is prideful. When we acknowledge Jesus Christ as our Lord and seek to worship him and glorify in all we say and do, he has a way of blessing us, using us, providing for us, and establishing our reputations before others. But we don't do it to get the result. We honour him because we should honour him. And generally we find he steps into the bargain afterwards. Yeah, moving on. Church leaders. I quite often think of 1 Timothy 5:17, and the elders who direct the affairs of the church are worthy of double honour, especially those who work is preaching and teaching. Do we honour our church leaders enough? But actually, I had a revelation this week about Ephesians 4, 11 and 12. Now, if anyone new to Living Hope, 4:12 is part of a partnership we have with churches all over the world. And it's all about equipping the saints, that's you and me, for works of service. By the start of Ephesians 4, it says, so Christ himself gave the apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors and teachers. So are we receiving those people as though Christ gave them? So if Jesus was physically in the room and actually said, here's an elder, here's an apostle, here's a prophet I'm giving to you, would you hold that person with more honour and more esteem than we do currently? It was just a real challenge for me. So these are gifts from Christ himself. Let's honour and respect them in those ways. And then worldly leaders. Romans 13, let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of obedience. So we need to submit to worldly leaders. Now, sometimes it may be a little bit more difficult than others, but we're not asked to do easy things in the name of Christ. We're told in Romans 13 to submit to worldly leaders. I mean, we probably all know the story about David and Saul in the cave. Saul had gone in there to take care of some natural bodily things. David was in there with his knife. He had the chance to stab him. He actually just cut off a little bit of his cloak. And he was still realised he'd sinned against Saul then. How much do we attack worldly leaders or those leaders in our business or elsewhere? I'm not saying everything they do and say is right. And in fact, a lot of the time, what they do and say probably isn't right. But that shouldn't matter. We should respect the person. Yes, challenge maybe their views, but we need to be respectful and we need to honour them. And I've certainly during my career, I've been fortunate to work for some very, very decent, very, very good managers. But I've also had the misfortune to work for some stinkers of managers. And I think when I've been preparing this and looking back and saying, have I honoured and treated those the same? Actually, as I say, it's been deep heart surgery for me this week because, there's been times when I've not treated my superiors as I should have done. And that's just one example. So to me, that's, really, if your boss has been a Saul, you need to be a David.
Yeah, that's right.
You need to submit, you need to honour, and leave it over to God. In summary, 1 Peter 2, make the master proud of you by being good citizens. Respect the authorities, whatever their level. They are God's emissaries for keeping order. It is God's will that by doing good, you might cure the ignorance of the fools who think you're a danger to society. Exercise your freedom by serving God, not by breaking rules. Treat everyone you meet with dignity. Love your spiritual family, revere God, respect the government. Sums it up perfectly. So now we've now looked at who we should honour. Let's look at how practically we can honour people. But whilst I'm doing this, just please bear in mind and keep your heart open. Just keep your mind thinking over as to who in your life are you not honouring as much as you should, whether that's God, whether that's church leaders, or that's people around you. And just be trying to think of a practical step later as to what can you do to show honour. So first one, how to show honour. Think of others more highly. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. We saw that earlier with a picture about playing second fiddle. How can I ensure I'm playing second fiddle to somebody else and making them look good? Now this one's a bit tenuous, but this is a fishbowl. I don't know if anyone in the corporate world has heard of a fishbowl session. It's sort of coming back into vogue a little bit. And what happens in a big corporate organisation is to get feedback from generally the colleagues who are more junior, is you set up a fishbowl session, which sounds a bit contrite, but what you have 12 people inside the fishbowl, which are the 12 people who are going to be discussing whatever the topic is. And then the 4 or 5 leaders have to sit outside the fishbowl. And they get given certain topics they want to discuss. Now, the reason the 4 or 5 people have to sit outside the fishbowl is because these leaders can't stop talking and telling people what they think. So during the session, which generally runs for an hour, the people inside the fishbowl can say whatever they want, and the leaders on the outside have to stay quiet, can't say anything at all, whatever's been said, and just wait and hear. Then after the hour, the leaders can go inside the fishbowl and talk. Now, I was quite sceptical about this when I first did it, but it's actually amazing. It forces you to listen. And it sounds really, really silly. What it's saying is, if those 4 leaders were inside the fishbowl, they would be talking all the time, giving their views and not listening. Think of others more highly. So we've had to put something artificial in place in the corporate world because the leaders are probably thinking of themselves more highly and their opinions are worth more than the colleagues. So it tells me in day to day, and then I thought about it in a household situation everywhere. Are we actually listening to other people? And when we listen, are we actually just waiting so we can speak? Or are we properly listening? Are we listening to find out what the other person's view is and what they want and their point of view? Or are we just saying, this is my point of view, this is my argument back? Try sometime in the next week being in a conversation for 10 minutes with somebody without putting your point of view across at all. Just finding out more and more about that person or their point of view. I can assure you, it's a lot harder than it seems. And I believe God's given us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Let's use them in that proportion. Obedience is the next one. In John 14, Jesus replied, "Anyone who loves me will obey my teaching. My Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home with them." Anyone who loves me will obey my teaching. That's very true of us for the Lord, for Jesus. Jesus is very simply stating, if we love him, we will do what he asks. But I think the wider context is true as well. If we love our parents, will we do what they ask? If we love our church leaders, will we do what they ask? I mean, Ed's asked us this morning to sign up for Ignite. Wouldn't it be fantastic for the figures to come out tomorrow and all of us have signed up for Ignite? Something simple about honouring and obeying. Now, I'm not saying everyone can go there, so I'm not trying to put any guilt trips on. But actually, it's about, if your parents, whether you are 14, 15, or whether you're my age or whatever, when your parents are asking you to do something, or something in authority, how many times do they have to ask you before? And I'm speaking, you're probably laughing at maybe children, but I'm speaking of myself. How many times am I asked to do something before I actually do it? Probably far, far too many. Obedience, it's so simple. And I sometimes say to my children, delayed obedience is disobedience. Delayed obedience is disobedience. Moving on. With your resources. Honour the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Now this specifically relates to money and to tithing, and I don't have time to go there this morning. But it's very clearly told in the Bible to honour the Lord with our first fruits. Again, what would the church, and I don't just mean Living Hope, but what would the global church be like if every single professing Christian was doing that? But to me, it's more about, to some people, money isn't our most valuable resource. We think it is, because without money we can't do things. But actually, time is our most valuable resource. There's only 24 hours in a day. No matter how good you think you are or how hard you work, there's only 24 hours in a day. So what are you doing with the time on your hands? Are you surfing Facebook for 5 hours a day? Are you watching YouTube for 3 or 4 hours a day? How are you investing your resources? And as a way you use your time, honouring those around you and honouring God. That's probably the one I found the most challenging. If you actually just put a stopwatch on about every time you waste time during the day, you'll be surprised how much time you waste. How many times people tell me they don't have time to do this or that, and then the next minute you see them on their phone or on social media. I think it's probably one of the biggest challenges we've got in the world today. Yeah. Do it for the glory of God. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. So if you work, you're working for the glory of God. If you're a stay-at-home mum or dad looking after the children and you've just had the children fight for the third time this morning and you're losing your patience, you're doing that for the glory of God. Yeah. When you come to church on a Sunday, you should definitely be doing that for the glory of God. If you were to put a microscope over your life and look over the next week about everything you're doing, how much of it is for the glory of God? I started preparing for this a couple of weeks ago, and I've been doing it in my life. And actually, far too much of my life is not for the glory of God. Far too much of my life. It's been deeply challenging for me. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Honour is treating people with respect and integrity. Can we all say we do that all the time? I know I certainly can't. So let's try, as we go into this week, do it all for the glory of God. Whatever you do it for the glory of God. Honour. As I said, we sometimes mistake honour. We've got films called Code of Honour. If you search honour on Google, we come up with far too many different things which people think are honour. And it's basically celebrity status in a lot of cases. Wealth. That's not scriptural honour, that's not biblical honour. Biblical honour is treating others ahead of yourself, being humble, not having pride, being submissive. How many times have you got into a debate and see it circulate because both people think their point of view is more important? We need to submit to each other more. We need to be happy playing second fiddle. And not playing second fiddle while aspiring to first fiddle. We need to actually be happy. If all you ever do in your life is play second fiddle and you never get to that first fiddle place, would you be happy in your life? We should be happy playing second fiddle. And we should be happy for the others in that orchestra to take the plaudits and the glory. The other thing which the Lord put his finger on for me this week was sometimes we do crave honour. If you've done something good, you're hoping you'll get noticed. And Jonathan always says, you'll never know if you've got a servant heart until somebody treats you like a servant.
That's right.
So actually, there's probably times in your life as well when you've done something and you'll be wishing, oh, I wish so-and-so would have noticed that, or I wish so-and-so... That's a little bit of pridefulness in you. Yes, we should be honouring each other. Yes, that person probably should see you and lift you up. But if you're living for that and thriving on that, you're actually doing it for the wrong reasons. So actually I want to turn, and for me I was thinking, how do I close this and where do I focus? And for me, the only place I can do that is coming back to the cross and honour what Jesus did for us on the cross. I think we sometimes, we know it, we've probably seen the pictures, we've probably been taught it, but how many times do we stop and really, really reflect what Jesus did for us and honour him? In 1 Corinthians 11, it says, and when he had given thanks, he broke bread and said, this is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, this cup is a new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me. For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. So then, whoever eats the bread and drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of sinning against the body and blood of the Lord. Everyone ought to examine themselves before they eat of the bread and drink of the cup. So why do we as Christians observe communion? First and foremost, he told us to. The Lord told us to. We are to obey his commands. He said, do this in remembrance of me. In observing communion, we are remembering Christ and all that he's done. And again, I'm not talking about what Christ has done for us collectively. I'm talking about what Christ has done for each and every one of you individually. Again, we sometimes communion, we think about it as mass, as a church, and it's great that we take it together, and it's great we celebrate together. But during communion today, I just sense that God wants to minister to people individually. He wants your response to be, I am honouring you, Lord. I'm pouring out my life for you, Lord. Honour him, one-on-one. Focus on him. We take time to examine ourselves when we take communion. Is there anything in my life, Lord, which is not what it should be? He'll point out things to you. Put it this way, every time I've said that to him, he's pointed out things to me, and sometimes more than one thing at a time. But he will. And then it's up to us to correct those things in our life. And we observe communion together to show ourselves participation in the body of Christ. Because we can't do this Christian walk alone. We do it as a body together. And that's why we need to honour each other.